Welcome back. We're still in lesson 5. This is video 5D. Important concepts in this video. Very important concepts. We're going to move towards ways to collect a sample or to design a survey. And one way to obtain observational study, the data that we're looking at now, is to conduct a survey or draw that random sample. I grabbed this off of Wikipedia. This is Detroit Lions, professional football team, NFL. And I looked it up on the internet. Apparently, NFL players are tested for marijuana. And if I consider this my population, I have this population of all the players on Detroit Lions, how can I take a random sample of, say, 5 players every other week and test them for marijuana? Right? We need to come up with some methods to pick the players here. Okay? And so that's where we're moving towards in this unit. We certainly don't need to test every single player to see if they're using marijuana, and it will take a lot of time and money to do that. All right, let's look at the ideas of sampling. Main idea number 1. I've got this pot of chili analogy, and I think it's a good one. Let me grab the marker here. When we're sampling, the first main idea is to examine part of the whole. Main idea number 1, examine part of the whole. We can think back to the Cecil College gym example quickly. I have 2,500 students. Do I really need to ask every student that goes here to Cecil College if they're using the gym, if I want to get an idea of the proportion using the gym? And the answer is no, I don't. So part of the whole will do. Here's a pot of chili. We fried up the ground beef, cut up the onions and peppers, opened up a can of beans, put the chili pepper in there, salt and pepper, etc. And let's look at this examine part of the whole. If I want to taste test this for salt content, before I serve it to my NFL Sunday party, my guests are coming over, do I need to eat the whole bowl of chili to determine if it has enough salt? And the answer is no, I don't, right? Say in this pot, say there's, I don't know if that's a 2-gallon pot or not, but say there's 2 gallons of chili in the pots. What size, a little ladle full in a cup will do. It will let me taste the chili, determine if there's enough salt. So 2 gallons of chili. If I want to do a taste test, a small cupful will certainly do the job. And when we're looking at populations, it's the same idea. If I'm examining Major League Baseball players, I don't need to sample every Major League Baseball player. If I'm drug testing Detroit Lions, I don't need to give every player a marijuana test every other week. A sample will do the job, and same thing here, right? Examine part of the whole. All right, main idea number 2. Back to chili again. Main idea number 2, it's the size of the sample that matters. Main idea number 2, it's the size of the sample that matters. Okay. It should be intuitive that more data is always better. Take a bigger sample, you're going to get more information contained. That's always a good idea. Things to keep in mind, though, taking bigger samples costs money and takes time. I don't need to make my sample size a fraction of the population size. Okay? So it's a little bit of a harder one to understand, but on the previous slide, we had 2 gallons of chili. All right? What if I'm cooking for the Army or a cafeteria and I'm going to make a 20-gallon vat of chili? Before a small cupful did the job. Now that I'm making 20 gallons of chili, do I now need to eat 2 gallons of it to determine if there's enough salt? The answer is I don't, right? As long as I get a good sample of my 20-gallon vat of chili, a small cupful will still do the job. What matters is that sample size. Small cupful will still do the job. If I'm sampling Cecil College students, for our gym example, 200 did the job. If I went to Ohio State where there's 50,000 students, do I now need to sample 5,000 students to determine the proportion using the gym? The answer is no. The sample size is what matters. As we move through the course, we'll come up with a couple methods to calculate the sample size. We're not there yet. There's a few rules that we'll learn, so we'll just have to wait for that to come. Main idea number 3. Before I take my sample, what do I need to do? I've got to stir the pot, and the word is randomize. A sample will do as long as it's a random sample. We need to stir the pot. Okay? Randomizing protects us from all the influences of all the features of our population and even the ones that we haven't thought about. It does so by making sure that on average that the sample looks like the population. If the pot is stirred, then what you scoop out for one ladle should be very representative of the whole pot of chili. If I'm sampling Cecil College students, as long as I have a random sample, then those students should look like the general population here at the school. And to drive that idea home, I want to discuss what we'll call the anti-random sample, and this is not necessarily a good thing. I got a couple pictures from Cecil College graduation. We have students of all ages, all races, all different backgrounds, and I want to take my sample of 200 students, right? The population of Cecil College is very diverse. Let's look at the anti-random sample. I looked up some figures on our Cecil College webpage. Here's one. 63% of Cecil College students are female. 63% female here at the college. Wouldn't I like my sample to be 63% female? Of course I would. Well, I have more facts I should think about. 12% of Cecil College students are black. Wouldn't I like to force my sample to be 12% black? Wouldn't I like to force my sample to be 63% female, 37% male? I could keep going. I looked up this one. 45% of our students are 21 years or younger. 45% of Cecil College students are 21 or younger. If I collect a sample to decide who's using the gym, wouldn't I like my sample to be 45%, 21 and older? I guess that leaves 55%, 22 or above. I looked up one more and then you get the idea here. 86% of Cecil College students are in-county. I'd like my sample to be 86% in-county. I guess that leaves 14% out of county. If you took all the students that go to this college and you start trying to match every characteristic of the population to your sample, it's going to become impossible very quickly. This is not random. If I tried to force my sample to look like this is not random. if we randomize, and we'll learn about that in the next lesson, if we randomize, on average, my sample will be 63% female. Now, I get that sometimes when we take 200 students, you might get a few extra females. Sometimes you might get a few extra black students, maybe a few fewer younger students, maybe a few extra in counties. But on average, the sample will look like the population. I'll wrap up with that. If we randomize, that sample that we collect the sample will look like the population on average. It won't be perfect. And so we'll always strive to collect random samples, right? Once in a while, something might be very important to us. We might want to have our sample be exactly 63% female and 37% male. Okay? But when we start doing this to try to mimic perfectly, it's not going to work. If you stir the pot, the sample will look like the population on average, and that's exactly what we're striving for. Okay, so I see the end symbol there on the slide. We'll wrap up this lesson here. Thanks for watching.